Is it recording from the right mic? I have to ask.
Hello, and welcome to Ghosts in the Cloud, your anime podcast. It is I, legendary actor Sean Connery. And
The
with
one
me
and only.
is my co-host Bridget. Bridget, we've been doing this now for 23 episodes. And today we bring you The Irregular and Magic High School.
I didn't know Sean Connery liked anime. This is
Sean
a
Connery
revelation.
loves anime. It is one of his favorite pastimes. But before we get into the show, we're going to do something we always do. Anime news.
I think I'll take it over from here, Mr. Connery. So, the first anime Godzilla film, Planet of the Monsters, will open in January. This is a really good voice impersonation.
I'm sure it doesn't sound as good when I play it back.
I know, we'll play it back and be like, what are you doing? The first anime Godzilla film, Planet of the Monsters, will open in January on November 17th, which actually just passed. And then it will stream globally on the Netflix service this year. I feel like Netflix is taking over everything. Okay, so Pokemon Company announced that Pokemon the movie I Choose You film will air on Disney XD in the United States on November 25th at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. local time. And the showings will be part of an all-day Pokemon anime marathon that will include all previous episodes of Pokemon Sun and Moon, as well as 2 new episodes. I know this movie was in local theaters recently, but it was on a day that we couldn't make it. I definitely want to catch it this time on TV.
And that's our news for the week.
Okay. All right, I draw the line here.
Next is Word of the Week. Go ahead.
I want my co-host back.
I'll go get him.
Okay. He's actually walking away, leaving the room. No.
Hi, everybody. John's back.
Yay!
And I'd like it to know I could have done that all day.
No, it's all right. It's okay.
All right, so
Word of the week.
Word of the week. I feel like it's a little bit of a cop-out. It's magician, which is literally pronounced magician.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of their words come from the English language.
Or there's a lot of words that don't translate. Or
they're written in katakana.
It feels like a cop-out.
It is a cop-out.
You know what? We did Witch not too long ago.
Majo. We did that 2 weeks ago for Keys delivery service. Majo.
And I didn't want to use high school because I was like, there's something that we're going to have to use high school for.
Yeah.
Like, we can't just get rid of that one so easily. So,
that's
magician
fine.
is
Let it
magician.
slide.
Alright, so The Irregular at Magic High School was a Japanese web novel series created by Tsutomu Sato in 2008 before being released as a light novel in 2011. It has spawned a variety of manga and it was released as an anime between April and September of 2014. The story takes place in an alternate history where magic exists and is advanced through modern technology. However, the ability to use magic is determined by genetics, limiting the amount of magicians in existence. Following the Third World War, the world's superpowers shifted into 4 nations. Due to the limited amount of magicians, they are treated as a commodity and forced to enter magic-related schools and professions. The show follows Tatsuya and Miyuki Shiba, who enter into First Magic High School. Miyuki is enlisted as a first course student and is viewed as one of the best, while Tatsuya is in the second course and considered to be magically adept. However, Tatsuya's technical knowledge, combat abilities, and unique magic techniques cause people to view him as an irregular to the school's standardized rankings. It's a very, very complicated show.
Okay, so I just want to ask you, because we both watched this show, but we didn't watch it together. And when you first heard the name of the show, what were you anticipating it being? Like, what kind of show?
I didn't expect the whole, like, it's a very sci-fi element. Like, it's very heavy in sci-fi. It's,
very high-tech.
Future. Things have gone on. It's almost like a dystopian world to a degree. Like, not in look, but in, like, feel, because you've had a Third World War, and, like, there are all these, like, splinter factions going against governments and stuff.
Based on the name, I was expecting, like, another stereotypical, like, romance comedy high school setting. Like, a lot of child banter and you know, and it would take place in a magic school, but I don't know, I was expecting something a little more cliche. I see that a lot with magic-themed shows, and it really definitely took me by surprise. It was
this is serious. Something that bothers me with anime is they focus a lot on, like, younger characters. In no way, like, would a high school student in our life ever be as, like, cool or intense or physically adept as these characters in the animes. Like, just make them a little older. Just make it, like, college. And it would make more sense to me, because, like, you're coming into your prime in college, like, you're likely going to be at, like, your physical, like, fittest level.
Yeah.
And it never made sense how these young kids were just thrust into these positions, and it's always something that I find hard to just sort of expel, like, disbelief, you know? That's something, like, a great movie can do. It can expel your disbelief of not believing in the world. Like, you can easily get behind how the movie and the world is set up. Like, anime, I find it harder to do. That said, this is a really cool show. Like, the animation is awesome. The action, the idea, the concept behind it is really cool.
We said that the action scenes were on par with Sword Art Online. We said it was really SEO fun. Quality action that made it really enjoyable.
This show is very complicated.
Don't watch it after drinking. You'll never follow it.
It's not, like, explained very easily either. Like, it is explained eventually, but, like,
not
it's so kind of ass backwards.
Okay, so we had to do a lot of wikiing on this because apparently there's a lot of backstory in the manga that they did not get into in the show. There's a lot of why the main character Tatsuya behaves the way he does, why he's so cold, and why he only has like some kind of emotional attachment towards his sister. They really don't go into that at all.
The term exposition is used when a character describes what's happening in their universe for the audience. They have a lot of exposition in this show, but the way they explain it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
And you're kind of just like, wait, I still don't understand what's happening.
Yeah.
So, like, there are these 9 schools, and they don't really, other than being called 1st through 9 Magic High, they don't really have a ranking. It's just the name, I guess.
And they're government-run schools. And like, everything's very military.
And
even their school uniforms.
All magicians who have any kind of potential go to these schools.
Yeah.
Now, at the very least, 1st Magic High, they split them into 1 and 2 course students. 2 course students are sort of less powerful as magicians. They're not as good, or maybe they have, like, unique abilities, but not something that...
But not mind-blowing.
Maybe
but they do explain that
like,
just to get into the school is an accomplishment in itself. So even though the course 1 and 2 have, like, a lot of dissonance between each other, like, they really all should be more united, because it's difficult for even the course 2s to get into that school. I think it's supposed to be a very high-class school.
And the main characters, Tatsuya and Miyuki, they're siblings. Miyuki's like this incredible magician. She's super powerful. She has the ability sort of to control ice. Like, that's her sort of specialty. She has, like, these ice powers. Cool. Tatsuya is not as adept as Miyuki. However, because of that, he has, like, other interesting abilities. Like, you find out that his family has taught him to sort of deconstruct magic. And the way magic is done in this show is very odd. So there are things, what they refer to it as magical sequences. Essentially, like, casting a spell requires a magical sequence. They introduce technology to sort of help people, like, remember those sequences and cast things easier. But Tatsuya doesn't need that. He has the ability to sort of remember. He can deconstruct. He can sort of counter.
He's like a computer in himself. Like, the way his mind works is unbelievable.
On top of that, he's also physically, like, damn near unstoppable.
Yeah, he was a soldier.
He joined, like, the infantry when he was younger, like, part of this government organization, and he's somehow behind taking down these, like, anti-magic
Again,
people.
He's in high school. It's a little far-fetched.
It's a little too much.
But this world, it's supposed to be more government-oriented. It's supposed to be more military-based. So, like I said, even the school uniforms, everything about this institution is very militarized. Is that the word? Yeah. But they all even kind of act a little bit like soldiers. They don't act like casual students. They really do act like they're all in an army. And honestly, okay, so I want to talk about, since you started touching on it, I think what makes this show so interesting is the way they tie in magic and technology. And I mean, like, I'm a nerd outside of anime. Like, I love fantasy and sci-fi, and I think the only kind of books I read have, like, fantasy and magic in them. I was like, so if there isn't, like, a unicorn or a wand of, or something in a book, I'm probably not going to read it. So I see a lot of writers, they always say that magic and technology are opposites. And there was even one series where this magician, if he would go near a cell phone or some kind of technology, that they would break down. Like, so it's a very common concept. But here, they're saying that together they're like peanut butter and jelly. They were just perfect the way they united them.
The technology almost amplifies their magic.
They did it so well. Like, it just, like, they flow together so nice, and it's just so different to see. It's refreshing.
They don't really explain it, which they try to.
Like, the CADs, how do they even work?
Yeah, like, they can be anything. So they can be any piece of technology that essentially you can enter a code into. It'll bring up a magical sequence, and then you actually use your innate magical ability, like genetic ability, to cast the spell. It's fun to watch. It's cool to look at. Yeah. But it makes no sense whatsoever.
I mean, the way I interpret it, at least I think they intended it this way, is instead of remembering a magical incantation, which is supposed to be very long and complicated, it was saved into what looks like a cell phone, what they hold in their hands.
Well, some of them, yeah. Some of them have other items.
I think that it's supposed to be like a shortcut, like the way that we would save a cell phone number into our address book and we just have to click on a button instead of typing it out manually. Like, I feel like that's the equivalent, if that's a good comparison. But they don't explain it, so that's just, just by observation, it looks like that's what it means, but they don't go into it too much.
So this story has multiple arcs to it. Like, the first 8 or so episodes are what they refer to as enrollment. And it's them entering the school. You clearly see that there's a divide between students. Like, first course students kind of look down upon second course students.
They actually even come up with nicknames. Blooms for course 1 and weeds for course 2. Like, they literally call them a weed. I mean, it's supposed to be banned from the school, but people in the student body, like the government body, like, call these,
and like most
weeds.
Of the weeds are like exceptional fighters, or they may not be like as strong magically, but they have other avenues and other techniques that make them just like almost equivalent or
more powerful.
The whole school rating is somewhat flawed in how they divide them up.
Like, you can argue that Tatsuya is probably the most unique and most powerful student in the school, but magically his sister is. If it was just based on magic, but
There's a whole backstory between them that I don't know if we'll touch on, but more part of the manga, and I think they sort of added it to the anime just for like fan service.
I think it's fan service. Yeah.
The kids in the story arc, the first story arc is just sort of getting used to the school, and then all of a sudden it's uncovering a insurgent plot by these. There are these organizations that are anti-magic, and they're trying to like bring down the magic
They're
community.
Like mafias.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous.
And they use the school's competitions as like for gambling to make some money.
Story
it was
arc is
ridiculous.
About a competition between the schools, and like this show I think could have benefited from just having just being school oriented. You could still have the whole bloom weeds, first course, second course. You could have competitions within the school, competitions between other schools. Like, you could still have that and it would still be just as fun. Yeah. Like, they try to throw in this intense, like, overarching theme of government and oppression.
I mean, the government part, I think the government part, it makes sense. Like, they just got out of World War III, and some of these students served in that war. And the government, the soldiers,
bothers me.
Are...
Because no country...
But the military runs these schools, so... it makes sense that there's oppression and that they act like soldiers, but the whole mafia trying to, like, gamble and money, like, that part I didn't like, but I feel like based on the story, I think it would have been more interesting if we got to see more of, like, the war beforehand, and that would have been, I think,
that could have been
more relevant, and we would have understood the main character better.
So a thing I've mentioned in the past that I'm not a big fan of is when our characters are unbeatable in a sense, and Tatsuya is definitely, he's unbeatable. He even has a spell that he can cast that literally regenerates his body after intense damage to it. Like he's been like nearly killed, and he casts a spell, like an inward spell, and it just heals him. It almost backs him up like a computer file.
Yeah.
And it's just so bizarre and so strange.
Yeah, like if you get like a bad computer virus, it's like, do you want to go back to 5 minutes ago? And you just click a button. That's what he did.
I'm sure it's supposed to be more complicated, but they definitely don't explain it.
They don't explain it, so
and
it just,
I don't like the fact that they're always super badass kids. Like, make them older, make them. I get it. I'm probably in the minority on this.
We sound like dinosaurs saying that high school students are like children.
So we recently watched Erased, and I loved that show because here's a guy who's like in his late 20s and life just isn't going his way, but he has this ability to go back as a kid, and like you experience it as a kid, and that to me I found to be one of the most interesting animes I've seen in a long time because it's not children. It is children, but the guy himself, he's this 20-year-old who's trying to like solve all these things, and it's more fun that way. And it doesn't make sense for these kids in any world to have this kind of responsibility on them. Like there are a variety of characters in this show. Mayumi, who is the like president of the school. Mari is the disciplinary chairwoman.
Yeah,
there's some like
and they're just their
side
maturity
characters
levels,
like Shizuku,
not reflecting
Honaka,
their age. Like
Erika,
the student president. She is just very cool-headed, very mature, very adult. And if you didn't know this anime was taking place in a high school, you wouldn't guess these characters were the age that they were. You would guess they were much older. They take their responsibilities too well for their age. And I think that's like the biggest thing. Like, I guess if you want the anime to take place in a high school, and they were forced to take on these responsibilities, they probably just shouldn't be able to handle it so smoothly and so, I guess, so easily. Yeah. So I think maybe that's where the flaw is.
And here's
not the age
thing
so much as the way they handle it.
There's these characters, Masaki and Shinkuro, and they have been in the war. They're also high school students.
Yes.
They're freshman high school students from
freshmen.
the third Magic High, I believe.
Yeah.
And Tatsuya and Miyuki are freshmen. How old are you when you were a freshman? 14?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but like, I don't care who you are. You are not going to be going to war at 14. And you're not going to be like this level of... You are essentially a nuclear warhead. Like, these people have these powers that... Thank God they're not evil.
Yeah.
Because the world would be going to shit. And it doesn't make sense. Like, I just don't like how they're always young characters. Another issue I have with the show, all these characters, as fun as they are, they look so bland to me. Like, they look like every other anime character I've ever seen. Like, the way their hair is, the way their school outfits are, like, there's nothing...
I like the school outfits.
I don't dislike them.
I think that
there's nothing
they are
that
distinctive.
Stands out to me.
I disagree.
See, the thing is, like, all these anime characters have, like, similar hair, similar looks.
Like the hair, I understand.
It's the clothes that change
different.
how the character is like recognized.
Right.
So like if you take the clothes off of one character, put it on another character who looks similar, you probably wouldn't be able to tell which one's which. And I get that. There's a certain look that people like.
It's not Akira.
There's a certain look that people like, and like there's a distinct anime look, but it's just. Like, I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, this character looks like this character. This character looks like a character from a show we watched months ago. I want something on these characters to make them look different, and I think making them older would do that.
I think that if they just bumped it up a few years and made it a college-oriented, that would make more sense, which would mean that if they did serve in the war, they were in high school. And late high school is the enlisting age of military, and that makes sense. So I feel like if they did that, they just make them look a little bit older and call college university instead of a high school. I think that would make the age believable. And then I think that what's really important with a main character, especially to be able to identify with a character, is for them to have a flaw. So like you were saying with the character in Erased, he had flaws. Like he didn't know how to rely on other people. He had to take on the weight on his own shoulders, and then he learned how to overcome that, and he was able to succeed by relying on his family and friends. So, and I can name, so many other anime characters, but I feel like they're all so relatable because they're human, and they have those human flaws that this main character doesn't have.
There are a lot of good things about the show. It's fun. There's no doubt that it's fun. The animation and the action is great. Like, the concept is great. The concept
fantastic.
Is, good. It's just, I don't think it's executed well.
Okay, so some of the tech magic combinations, like every scene, there was something new, and every time I see it, I'm like, that is awesome. So apparently this main character, him and a colleague, are secretly a famous CAD designer. So they come up with new technology that's released to the public, and they only go by an alias, Taurus Silver. The things that he comes up with are so much fun. He comes up with a spell that allows people to fly, which was awesome.
Yeah, cool.
They have, he came up with a sword where the end of this big, broad sword is not actually attached, and it can extend out and hit people from a distance.
It's more like a club, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like a sword club. I think they called it a great sword or something like that. The weapons that they come up with, and they have in their school tournament, that was a lot of fun to watch. Actually, it had me thinking that this anime, the school, reminded me of a futuristic Hogwarts. Because you have the school, you have them broken up into different classes, and then you have a tournament with the different magic schools. Kind of sort of like the parallels with Hogwarts.
There are a lot of cool things about the show. It's just because they don't explain it well, it doesn't sit very well with me. I don't need more of this show. You know what I mean? There are animes where I'm just like, oh, I would love to see more of this anime. This anime, I think, is fine.
I think if they had a prequel where you can see how he became the way he is, apparently his family kind of created him to be the as powerful as he is. They determined his abilities, and they were so powerful they had to subdue and make. That's when they made his sister, who was a seal for his magic. It's
convoluted.
Yeah, and unexplained. So I think that the only way they can ever come up with more for the show is if they came up with a prequel that explained all of this.
You know what this show feels like? It feels like you had a bunch of executives in a room and be like, what do people love? They love magic. They love action.
Guns,
they love cool looking characters.
Competitions.
They love ninjas. Let's throw it all together.
They throw in ninjas.
Yeah, they have the shinobi, they have people who are still shinobi in the future, and this is after the Third World War, and I think it's 20 plus years in the future or whatever, and it's just are there really shinobi anymore? Are there ninja?
Gangsters and
I want to know though, seriously. It felt like this whole anime is a fan service. It's just give them everything they love. Yeah. It doesn't have to make sense.
But you know what?
That's my biggest issue.
It's short and enjoyable to watch. I can honestly say that with all of its flaws, when I was watching it, I still, at the end of the episode, thought, ooh, one more. I want to watch another one. So we did go through it really quick. When I rewatched it, I did enjoy it. So, but yeah.
There's so much that can be said. We could probably do multiple episodes on this show, picking it apart. That, with all the complaints I have about it, I would recommend it to people because I would like to know if they have a similar feeling about it that I do, that it's overly complicated, that it's fan service, that although it's fun and there's a lot of cool action, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I would just love to know what people think about it.
I mean, at least when I watched it, even though it kind of felt a little thrown together, I didn't get that feeling oh, I feel like I've seen this show before. It didn't have that typical formula to it. It wasn't too many tropes in it. I feel like it still had an original element.
I disagree. I think there's a lot of anime tropes in there.
Well, I mean, the siblings, that's a big one, and I don't want to even talk about it. I feel like the basis of the show with the magic and the technology, I think that was just so creative, and it was just so much fun to watch. So I think that everyone should watch the show because it's short, it's fun, and it's just a fun binge show. I'm not going to say it's your favorite show, it's not going to be one of those, but I think it's a lot of fun to watch. But it's still kind of new. We didn't see any cosplays out there for this show, but I feel like the costumes...
I'm sure there are.
Are so
difficult to
no
find.
one really posted any, at least that we saw. But I feel like the school uniform is so distinctive that it would be easy to cosplay it. They do sell the school uniform online, so I'm sure we'll eventually see somebody cosplay this.
Yeah, and you can find it on Netflix and Crunchyroll currently.
Yeah, it's on both of them, so it's got to have something going for it.
All right, I think that covers our episode on the irregular at Magic High School.
Easy for you to say. So don't forget to email us at gitcanime@gmail.com. And we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So just look for GITC Anime. And of course, check out our Patreon account because we have a new tier up and I did post that. And
let's talk about this for a second.
Really excited.
So Bridget is an artist. She went to school for art. And she's amazing. She taught it for a while. She's amazing at it. She made us into anime characters. It's finally complete. Something she wants to offer any patrons interested is $10 tier. You send in a picture of yourself to us. You could tweet it to us, email it to us, Facebook us. Or
email so it's private.
Bridget will turn you into an anime character.
Yeah, so all the details are on the Patreon page.
If there's something specific you want done, just put it in a
and
note
if you
want to
know, like,
have it done for
if you want an idea of what my drawing skill looks like, just look at our banner on all of our social media pages and you can see us as anime characters. So
it's really cool. Check it out. Let us know.
I would love to do this because, I mean, we're all huge anime fans here, right? Or you wouldn't be listening, but you can be an anime character. And, I mean, I would love to see people transform into anime characters and then put them on, like, as social media icons and profile pictures. I think that would be a lot of fun. So I hope to see you on the 2D side.
As important as Patreon is, what we really want is for everyone to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast because that's how people that's how it gets out there. That's how it listens.
Yeah, that's more important.
That's what we want to know. We want to know how we can make the podcast better. That is our goal. We're going to be doing this anyway. You might as well help us, honestly, people.
I mean, we're here for you guys, though. If you always have feedback, please share.
Yeah, please share. Thank you to our patrons, and thank you to Anthony for our theme. You can check out Anthony at What's Your Fortune on iTunes, and
all the details are in our episode description.
Yes, next week, very interesting.
Yes.
Actually, tomorrow, today is Saturday the 18th. Tomorrow, the 19th, we are going into New York City, with the greatest city in the world, to see
AnimeCon.
We got tickets to AnimeCon.
And it's the first year of this convention.
And next week, we're going to be doing sort of our
synopsis
of how AnimeCon went. So.
And we're going with our reoccurring guest, Blake, so he will be on our episode next week to talk about this new convention. So we're very excited about it.
Very excited.
If you are in the New York area, we hope to see you there.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good one, guys. Bye.
Yeah.